There we go. I thought I was going to get a chance to model and walk the stage, but it's all right. We'll stand right here. Okay, so let's start over again. How's everyone doing? Good? I am Chris Keys. I'm an artist, a fashion designer, and the founder of a flower tea brand. And I'm going to take you on a little journey this evening. I'm going to take you on a journey of my life, one that I've traveled all over the world sharing, to Japan, to Thailand, to Europe, inspiring people to find the beauty in everything. But my life hasn't always been so beautiful. There was a time, and the picture to the left is me in my mom's lap, and I was a toddler in the 80s. I won't tell you my age, but it was the 80s. And my mom noticed that I had jaundice. So the jaundice is yellowing of the eyes. And she realized that I was really, really fatigued. So she was a nurse, and she knew that she had to take me somewhere to get this checked out. So she took me to St. Jude Children's Research Hospital. And I'm from Memphis, Tennessee. So we were lucky that we were right there in the city. Now, the doctors at St. Jude, they took my blood smears. They realized that I had these irregular shaped blood smears. And my hematologist, his name was Winford Wong, he knew that this had to be hereditary. So he did not want to just diagnose me. He wanted to do this intensive research. So he took all of my family members. He took my paternal grandparents, my maternal grandparents, my uncles and aunties, and my sister. Everybody that he could rally up, he took their blood smears. And my grandma she said, I'm tired of St. Jude. She was like, every time I turn around, they asking for my blood, what is wrong? But what the doctor concluded was that my family, both maternal and paternal, which is very rare, has the trace of a genetic blood disorder. It is called hereditary elliptocytosis. It's so rare that only 1 in every 3,000 to 5,000 people in the US have it. So I'm the only person in my lineage with the full trait of this disorder. Now, this was a very pivotal point for my family. It was a turning point because nobody knew that we had this trait. And it impacted one person greatly, and that was the person that was complaining, which is my loving grandmother, Grandma Bernice. So Grandma Bernice was this vibrant, I would say a young acting grandmother. She traveled, she loved life, but all of her life, she had been misdiagnosed. Doctors had just given her blood transfusions. Even one time I almost gave her the wrong type of blood. So me going to St. Jude practically saved her life. It helped her to realize that she didn't need so many blood transfusions. She had an irregular blood disorder, and she was able to communicate that throughout the rest of her life. Now, this impacted myself greatly as well because the doctor told me that 3 things would happen. Well, he told my parents 3 things would happen. He said the first thing that would happen is that I would have an aplastic crisis, and he said that my red blood cells would stop reproducing. And he said I would also have problems with my gallbladder and my spleen eventually. So at age 7, I had the aplastic crisis. My red blood cells stopped reproducing. And for months, while they were looking for blood donors, we went back and forth to St. Jude for months. I was missing school. They finally found a blood donor. And I remember the day that I walked in to get the blood transfusion, my dad said I was so weak that when he got me to the door of St. Jude, I just collapsed. So he had to just pick me up, take me to the hospital room. Now, I was very anxious. Now, this was prior to tablets and iPhones, and I was bored. And I told the nurses, look, when is this going to be over? Like, can we wrap this blood transfusion up? I was so anxious. So the nurses brought me watercolors, and that was something that I had already been using. So I was painting with these watercolors, painting flowers and different things, and before I knew it, the blood transfusion was over. So for the next few days, the months, the weeks, my health started to improve. I started to feel a lot better and a lot stronger. And that gave me a great childhood for the rest of my childhood. My doctor also educated me. Every time I would go, he would draw out little diagrams of how my blood should look and how I can communicate that with doctors throughout the rest of my lifetime. So when I graduated high school and I graduated college, I knew that I wanted to pursue a career in fashion, and I knew that I needed to leave my hometown of Memphis. But there was one problem, and that was my underlying illness. I was so scared because throughout my childhood, I had St. Jude by my side and I had my mom by my side. But I had the faith and I went ahead and I left. So I moved to New York, pursued a career in fashion design. After that, I moved to London, England, and I pursued a career in fashion illustration. And I was just at the height of my career in my life. I felt good. I didn't have any health problems at that point. And one day, while I was on a train to Paris, I started to feel ill. And I remembered this feeling. It felt like I was 7 years old again. My body just felt so weak, and I said, this is a very familiar feeling. I know that this is the blood disorder. And I went back to London, and I was in fact having the next thing, which was the gallbladder attack. Now, who's ever had a gallbladder attack? A few people. Did you not feel like you were about to die? Yeah. I know. I said, okay, is this my entire life? She's gonna sum it up right here at age 30. But I remembered, I said, okay, they said it's a gallbladder attack. This is something that was bound to happen anyway. So the doctors came in and out of my room and they were like, have you ever seen your blood smears? I said, no. And they said, you are a very unique person. We've only read about this in textbooks. So they were bringing students in and out of my hospital room because my blood smears were so rare. Nobody had ever met anyone with these types of blood smears. So I made my hospital room like a little studio, and I began to paint blood smears. I even was able, after all of those years, I was able to get in contact with my doctor, who was still working at St. Jude. And I was like, look, the gallbladder attack happened, but I'm working on an art project, so can you send me some information about blood disorders? So he kind of walked me through what my body was going through. And he also was able to help me to convert my blood charts over to like a UK system. So after that, I created a beautiful collection called Hematology. I took the blood smears and I created patterns, and I created these different kind of blood shapes and different type of eye colors. And this collection was born. So hematology is the study of the physiology of the blood. And there were all of these different patterns that I learned from my doctor that I was able to put onto garments. I'm wearing one today, and onto scarves and onto art pieces. Now thank you. This project sort of brought me full circle because I had never met anybody with a full trait, but people started to contact me as they learned about this project. And there were people from all over the world who, they were like, oh my God, I have this same blood disorder. About 6 of us that I've met. And we started to form this community and sort of help each other and tell each other things that we were doing. And then I started to talk to my grandmother, and I started to ask her, what were some things that you ate or some things that you drank when you were a child? And it brought me back to this holistic practice and this holistic way of living. So I started a project years later called Genealogy. Now genealogy took me back home, and home for my family is Mississippi. Now in Mississippi, I was able to contact some of my elders who were then in their 90s. And they were able to share with me flowers that they had eaten when they were, you all probably have dandelions like laying in your backyard around your yards. And so they would take dandelions and make tea, and take different berries and make tea. And that inspired me to just learn about different ways that we can help to cope with our health problems through holistic and natural practices. Now, my grandmother is one person that this project impacted greatly. At the time, her health was starting to decline. We did not know exactly why her blood count was dropping so low, but we eventually found out that before I was born, she had been misdiagnosed and mismedicated so much that she was starting to have kidney failure. So she was put on hospice, and during her last few months, we were able to share tea together. She was able to help me figure out little recipes of tea. She's a Southern lady, so she likes her tea sweet. So we were able to figure out a natural way. Somebody's clapping for the sweet tea. We were able to figure out natural ways to sweeten her tea. And this floral tea line was born. So the first tea that we created was floral tea for anemia. So it's filled with beautiful hibiscus, blueberries, and roses that help with the circulation of the red blood cells. And then we created a tea line that helps with anxiety, which many of us suffer from, especially when we are in the hospital. So, and this is Grandma with the hematology jumpsuit. She was even on the news with her jumpsuit. And my doctor from St. Jude was able to come to my first exhibition to see her, to see my whole family. So it was really a beautiful moment. These are some paintings that was created in my grandmother's backyard from the collection Genealogy. So it includes a lot of flowers that I now use in the teas. Now, my grandmother just passed away just 1 month ago. She was 91 years old. So I wanted to honor her before she passed. I knew that her health was declining. So I went back to Memphis, and what I did was I went into her backyard. I was right outside of her bedroom window, so she was able to see outside, and I just painted. And it was sort of like a very soothing, meditative process for her to see me create this art that she saw me visualize and sort of encapsulated in that hospital room when I was at St. Jude at 7 years old. I captured stories that she shared with me with an exhibition called Come Roll My Hair, which was in upstate New York. And before she passed, she was able to see the full collection. She was able to see photos from the collection. And it was a beautiful moment that I will forever be appreciative of. So, thank you. So before I leave, I want to leave with you a small meditative exercise. And so I'm going to get you to close your eyes just for a few seconds. And I'm going to get you to think about when you were a toddler. So you saw me in the first image when I was just a few years old. And I want you to think about the things that brought you joy when you were a toddler. I want you to think about the places that you were. I was in my grandmother's backyard. You might be somewhere else in a playground. So get that image in your mind. And then I want you to get in your mind also a color, a beautiful color that brings you joy. And maybe this color still brings you joy. I also want you to think about the sounds, the music, the people that were around you. And lastly, I want you to think about the smells. I want all of those good feelings that brought you joy to just surround you, and think about the love that you felt in that moment. We're going to sit with that just for a few seconds. We're going to take one deep breath in, and then we're going to take a deep breath out. Now, as you open your eyes on your own time, I want you to think about all of the children who sit inside of St. Jude and all of the dreams that are captivated by those sounds and those images and those colors that they felt. That was me when I was just a little child at St. Jude Children's Research Hospital, just having this little dream that I wanted to travel the world, and I was able to do that because of the dedication, the research, and the love that was poured into me at the hospital. dedicate this speech to my loving grandmother, Grandma Bernice. Whenever you, thank you. This is a photo of my grandmother, my mom, and myself when we launched the hematology collection. And this is also a photo taken by St. Jude when I was doing research for this project. So whenever you think of St. Jude, I hope that you would think about not only the little children, but also the older people and the families that the hospital impacts. Thank you so much.
Come on, make some noise up in here. Come on.